41-year-old crypto trader's body parts were found in a suitcase in Argentina. Let's dive into this story. Welcome back, guys. Before we get into this story, I just want to give a warning, right, to people like this. I'm going to be reading some stuff that is pretty gruesome, and I just want to give anybody a heads up. So for the people that, obviously don't necessarily want to hear about this or whatever, now is probably a good time to go and start watching something else. But for those that do stick around, let's dive into this story and see what lessons we can learn. Here we go. All right, guys. It's not an easy story, but we got to cover it, and it's important. So let's dive in. Millionaire crypto influencer found chopped up in a suitcase, sent out a cryptic message before his death. That doesn't sound very different than what we saw, I believe it was 6 to 8 months ago, where there was another influencer, which I will put a link in this video to that video, because essentially something similar had happened where they put out a series of cryptic messages and then all of a sudden were found dead. Anyways, let's continue here. Argentinian authorities reported that Fernando Perez Algaba's dismembered body was found inside a red suitcase by a group of children who were playing by a stream in the town of Ingeniero Budge. As investigators were called to the scene, they discovered Algaba's legs and forearms inside the suitcase and identified him through his various tattoos. Police later discovered the millionaire's head and torso in a separate location. Before he went missing, Algaba posted cryptic messages on social media about evil people who were out to get him. The children's parents notified the Buenos Aires police, who inspected the package and reportedly found the victim's legs and forearm inside, discovering another whole arm in the stream. It actually, believe it or not, it gets worse. That's what's crazy about all this. Investigators noted that Algaba's body was cleanly amputated, which indicates he was possibly killed by a professional contract killer. An autopsy report revealed Algaba was shot 3 times before being dismembered. At the time of writing, Argentinian authorities have not announced any possible suspects, but an investigation has been launched. Okay, so obviously we don't have that much information yet, but it does bring up a really interesting and important point about our individual social media presence. So let's go take a look at just some of the pictures and types of stuff that he used to post. And again, in no way am I saying that, well, you shouldn't have posted these, it's your fault. Like that's like victim blaming, right? Like that's not what I'm doing. What we're trying to do, though, is kind of show a representation so that we can understand. So let's take a look. Board Cure actually put out a tweet, and this is what they said. Known for his luxury lifestyle on social media, he had posted about evil people, but specifically known for his luxury lifestyle. And I did some digging. And yeah, you can, obviously the typical pictures of the guy, sitting in front of the Lambo or whatever car this is, and then here's one. It's black and white. You can't really tell, but this is a Mercedes G-Class truck. It's extremely expensive. These things are not cheap. Okay, so obviously nobody deserves to be killed because they spent a lot of money on stuff. Like that's just insane. I mean, that should go without saying. And I have spoken about this type of behavior in the past. And I'm not talking about him as a crypto influencer or as a crypto trader or anything like that. I'm talking about the behavior of understanding that, just because you, right, or me, just because we live in the Western world, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are always safe. Number one. Number two, what's very important is understanding that in other parts of the world, life is very cheap. Okay, like that makes a difference. Okay, like I remember when I visited Mexico, I remember being driven through certain parts of the town where these people essentially lived in sheds, like kind of like things that were just put together, right, from random pieces. But their doors were gigantic, okay, and they were brand new. Like it was the weirdest thing to see, right? You'd see this like shed that's falling apart, but then this massive, beautiful door. And I remember asking the guide, I was like, I don't get it. I'm like, all these houses are, it's not even a house, but yet they have these brand new doors that are meant to be on mansions. And he explained to me that because the people there were so poor, they can't afford to build the mansions that they see, but they could afford the doors for them. That was kind of like, it was kind of eye-opening, right, for me? I mean, obviously not to the point of where I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't realize there were poor people. Like, no, but just the brainwashing, right? The brand that is sold across the world, right? Of wealth and status and stuff like that. So when we back this up, right? In some countries, there's a lot of people where life is cheap. Now, what do I mean by life is cheap? These people don't have very much, okay? These people, for whatever reason, feel that they are not worth very much. Or in some cases, they feel that the only way that they can get what it is that they want is through the means of violence and coercion. And so as a result, right? As a result, life is cheap. They are willing to do what it takes for very little, because what may seem like very little to you and me is quite possibly life-changing to somebody in an impoverished, in an impoverished country, or in specifically an impoverished condition. So going back to our social media presence, I've known a lot of flexers. I grew up with people that were in the telemarketing business, right? And for those of you who don't understand what telemarketing for the most part is a giant fucking scam. You are essentially selling something that doesn't really exist. And usually you're taking advantage of people that really cannot afford to lose, to lose the money. And these people that you work for, they have no idea what it's like to actually earn a buck, because essentially they're just hiring people to pitch a fake product on the phone. So these people have the illusion that they're creating value because they're becoming wealthy. Now, again, I'm not saying that this gentleman was creating the illusion of being wealthy and stuff like that. It doesn't matter. But my point is that these, people who decide to flex need to understand the other side of that flex. Just because you're loaded doesn't mean that somebody else isn't willing to do what it takes to take everything away from you. Whether or not it's acceptable, it's legal, it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant. Like, look, this guy was in Argentina. Kids found him in a frickin' suitcase, okay? So clearly the people that did this to him, they didn't give a shit about the consequences, okay? They did not give a shit. And that is the type of stuff that we have to pay attention to, okay? This is where it goes back to my point of life, not about life being cheap. So I know that, it may feel good to flex online to a bunch of people that you don't know how loaded you are or how well you're doing because you're trying to sell a service or something like that. Or in some cases, you're not even trying to sell a service. You just feel bad about yourself and you feel insecure and, you just want to show off to everyone and say, hey, look at me. I'm worth it. I'm worth it too. I'm somebody special too. You know something? The amount of effort that you put into posting a bunch of, dog shit online, like these Lambo pictures and stuff like that, you could actually be working on yourself and learning, essentially learning about yourself, number one, and number two, gaining in confidence and learning that you are worth it. You're totally worth it. And you don't need to flex. You really don't need to flex. Okay. And I guess the last part that I could finish this with is I have yet to meet a single or see a single person that flexes online that isn't some type of a scammer. Usually when people are trying to boast to you how wealthy they are, and again, I'm not saying that people who don't flex are not scammers, but what I am saying is that I have yet to see people who are flexing not be scammers. And the reason is that usually they're flexing because they're trying to get you to buy something from them or buy into an idea that they're selling. Okay, so they want to show you, they want to say, hey, look at how wealthy I am and how successful I am. If you want this too, you should follow me into doing this. Now, going back to this case about the guy they found in the suitcase, Fernando, I mean, is it at all possible that maybe it was a customer of his? Maybe somebody was buying tips from him. Like, we have no idea. And again, that does not justify what happened to him, but I'm just saying there are many different reasons that this could happen. We need to be careful. And most of all, if you're going to go flex online, think twice. Stories like this should definitely make you think twice. Flexing to strangers is a complete waste of time. It's a total waste of time, and it is completely cringe. And especially once you've actually accepted yourself and have enough self-confidence, you realize the shallowness and the depravity of the online flexing. Anyways, guys, it's a horrible story. Obviously, nobody deserves for that to happen to them. And, I just wish that, people just, stay safe and stay vigilant. And guys, if you like the episode, please like and subscribe. And I will catch you all next week. That's right. This was the last episode for this week. I'll catch you all on Tuesday. Catch you all Tuesday. Peace.